it always works. It always works. Check, check, check. It always works. It always works. Cool. I figured out how to share Ableton Live. All right. Well, this is going to be a quick stream. I'm really tired. I also just wanted to go over this introduction to Divergent Magick, which is this project I'm working on. And I'm not entirely sure if it'll start out as a series of articles for We the Hallowed, or if it'll kind of find its tone and its narrative, and I'll just sink my teeth in and get a good draft of the book going. But I did compose an article, somewhat of an introduction to what I'm calling Divergent Magick. And I thought it'd be cool just to kind of feel the rhythm of the thing that I wrote. This will most likely just be an article for We the Hallowed. But, elements of it, points in it might be used, for the book or whatever. I don't exactly have a game plan. I'm not entirely certain what I want to accomplish with the book, other than to fill holes of my own search within the confluence of metaphysics and mental health. And as someone that has suffered a long line of diagnoses, I mean, some of them, probably jokes, maybe some of them truer than others. There's a big thing in the metaphysical community where I've incessantly kind of looked for this correlation between, utilizing the spirit model to consort with mental health, and it's kind of treating brain chemistry as you would a deity, because it is another, right, that is tethering and throwing glass shards in the sand in front of you, or it is uplifting you. So I have a lot of ideas, and it's not going to be a grimoire or anything, and I'm going to say grimoire, nothing of that sort. It's absolutely just going to be kind of a testimonial of my experiments with consulting mental health with a metaphysical bent. Anyways, I've got to get to bed soon, but I figured, why not? I'm on a roll. I'm gonna keep pushing on, trying to get better and dexterous with my words and how they fall out of my mouth. And trial by fire. So let's do it. So and I kind of spoiled the first sentence because it's so pretentious, and this is really terrible. Like I said, this is probably just going to end up being an article, but just sit with me. I just want to hear how it sounds out loud, and I want to kind of gauge how my delivery of it is, because you get into the throes of writing and you kind of lose a somatic voice with what you're trying to accomplish. And I think it's, continuing to utilize the live streaming mechanism to better myself as an orator, or even to refine my writing and to show you some music that I've been working on for the Hallowed audio sigil that's coming out a couple months. I'm basically creating an entire record to tether people's submissions. So it's gotten really big. It's gotten crazy. I think I've showed in one of my audiomancy videos, I actually uh, created this on the spot by using, oh, uh, right here, these guys. These are my sigils that I've created as like little mini drum pads. But anyways, I digress. Let me get back to just reading this pompous and bullshit introduction to what I consider Divergent Magick. Let's see. It starts off with once upon a... No, I'm just kidding. So it actually starts off with something far worse. All right. David Foster Wallace can go fuck himself. Yeah, I know that sentiment is horribly uncouth, especially concerning I've never seen a corpse raise just to insert his decaying member into his own no-no place. So let me try again. Fuck his ghost. Preternatural or not, ghosts are imprinted reverberations, legacies, specters of corporeal memory, and perhaps in his case, the resonating regret of a time card punched too early. Artists and thinkers haunt us with ideas, and David Foster Wallace cursed me with his idea of the default setting. A default setting, which he describes in a famous commencement speech, is, and I quote, "We rarely think about this sort of natural, basic self-centeredness because it's so socially repulsive, but it's pretty much the same for all of us. It is our default setting, hardwired into our boards at birth. Think about it. There is no experience you have had that you are not the absolute center of." Well, what about us abnormal mutants? Those of us with divergent defaults that are deemed too heretical by social standards. Those with pattern behavior deemed uncomfortable by psychologists and psychiatrists alike. Those with, widely diagnosed default settings so terribly wrought with garrulous acts that it better to tune with a medium instead of run rampant as they would. Why am I alien to the rhythms without harm to the bettered and buttoned? Is muting my awkward always good for the gander? The default setting, quote unquote, is an unintended transgression forever burning since birth. So how much control do we really have over it? And he continues, the default setting is an instinct that has been instilled in us, a certain way of perceiving the world, unquote. Well, that sounds like the duel of the fates, right? Nature and nurture. And the big ends may hex our chemistry with sour neurological mechanisms we had no want or aim to carry. So how about an osteomancy of self? Can we soothsay with my calcified bones on how to rid trauma by smattering them against the wall? Better yet, can we work in Congress with the deluge of defunct defaults in a harmonious alliance? Or are we simply able to decline trauma Is trauma, hard luck, and bah humbug a default setting worth being in Congress with? Or am I just a weird asshole that everyone must suffer? I must admit, I have no knowledge of David Foster Wallace as a person, nor do I keep infinite jest on my toilet tank for others to see at dinner parties. I don't care to judge or exercise his suicide as the sum of all of his parts, and I care not about his actions as fallible flesh. This is an upheaval of his echo of this sentiment. This is a meditation on my echo and the phantom machinations that may tend them. It also may be a surrender to his ghost, a surrender to communing with a default setting. And magic, quote unquote, or consorting with the unseen rhythms of the universe, I would say, magic conforms the subconscious to generate harmony in waking and sleeping life. It is a path I have yet to see fully explored within the mental health realm. And why? Magic is merely to consort with the self or selves, to conjure a life well lived. I think, in conjunction with treatment, uh, other spiritual praxis, there's a glaring opportunity for those afflicted with neurodivergent and other mental health ailments, quote unquote, to find a center, to squint their spirit ears and worry a little less about the mess we're in. It's as if trauma is a goetic demon rapping, knocking the back of our brains. Do we banish and curse their annoyance? No. In ceremonial magic, we sort of devise a language, a tether to the quote unquote other that is our brain chemistry, an even flow. Chemistry that is grumpy and tricky as a deity, evoked for certain needs and punishes or pushes, with the resolve always being the caution and reverence paid to the interference. To the neurodivergent mind, the somatic self is a deity worth consoling and binding wholesale, not numbing or exorcising. I was 26 years old when my sullen and sour was finally investigated by experimenting with popular treatments, and finally, not with just illegal substances, as I had long suffered. I'll forever joke about my righteous prohibition of pharmaceutical help, only to supplement it with even more dirty and dangerous drugs in my early 20s. My fever use of extreme substances, no matter the polarity, was clue number one that I'd rather create a subdimensional rift of human skin, emotions, and behaviors that consort with my default setting. It didn't matter if it exacerbated my mania and tundras of lofty ambitions or anesthetized my days in dead-eyed stares. I couldn't handle me, or what I feared was my default. And I mean the unmitigated me. Turns out no quote unquote me is truly unmitigated. And it's how we commune with the tools and tussles that actually make a quote unquote me. Again, 26 years to finally heed popular science and medicine. Uh, However, it only took me 5 whilst on that trajectory to expunge the pharmacopoeia. To be completely honest, I still struggle with whether or not to recalibrate and start over. Sometimes the beast bone rattled so fervently that my equilibrium became a prison. And, even now, I still have not found my communion with my own divergence. And I suppose I never will. And that's the beauty of divergence, the uncanny and uncommon resolve. There are default rhythms, however, not settings, that tick the tempo of the day willy nilly. I must continually conduct and improvise with these sometimes impenetrable Max Roach like drum fills to achieve a balance. I'm not complaining. I dig the BPM hustle. And as a matter of fact, when in the throes of too much medical interception with medications, I lose the jig. These copious amounts of medications, I surrendered, created a default setting, one that sullied my natural rhythms into hushed hums like a sonic membrane blocking what makes my fingers flicker and my brain gab. I began to yearn for mania. I yearned to personify flint and steel with nothing but a reality made of kindling. I yearned for dynamism. And as a creature confounded to the wiles of inspiration and disenchantment, I had found a setting that absolved me of those polarities. Was this the medium I have to tune to as to not irk others? Like a great nullification? What once was an algorithm for jazz rhythms would putter through an amputee drum circle. Chins and heels still make sound when thrusted on bongos. Hell, sometimes even in correct time at times. But at what a sordid effort. So much struggle for so little elation. And I needed the extremes to dance in between. Off the meds, I still have these tufts of enterprise, but I also get the dower too. Days as a dead lighter with a callous thumb, blistered and annoying enough to just forget igniting a fire altogether. You can win, just not all the time. And I'd sacrifice a hum for a cannon drum any day. Look, I'm not qualified to speak on behalf of the many diagnoses I had been given throughout my days. Whether it's literally diagnosed neurodivergent, bipolar, attention deficit, hyperactive, or post traumatic stress, I am not qualified to promote a resolve of success or transcendence from these very diagnoses. Let me be very clear. My resolve is that the medium has always been the message, and I am forever midwifing phantom victories through the means of vexation, vulnerability, to ascertain ways to work in Congress with them. To work with my biology and brain chemistry and a spirit model to alleviate the sullen with active praxis is a grand and sometimes dubious gesture. But I believe this confluence of metaphysics and mental health won't allow me the surrender of a default setting. No, as a matter of fact, I tailor my somatic with a methodology that isn't celebrated or practiced currents by anyone else. It should be, obviously, not in my same way, but I feel we must transcend the idea that we have something to aspire to in a sense of normalization, because we sure as shit have nothing to return to. So, what is the default setting of a neurodivergent artist and quote unquote magician? It is one seldom seen because it never needs to be. Some of you, divergents, may be thinking that our entire somatic lives are just piecemeal conjurations of inevitable default. One gifted, finally, at the end. I do find solace in that idea. Nay, I, was never afforded the certainty of an actualized trajectory. And I think our divergent resolutions give us way too many curiosities to explore to be at peace with any kind of consistent or constant hum. I hope I continue documenting this divergent magic merely as a celebration of the crooked in search for a common chord, but not one that binds a usual melody, one that discords a course. So, no, David Foster Wallace's ghost does not need to go fuck himself. I do appreciate, however, the torment his default setting solicited from me, and I respectfully disagree. Default settings are never absolute for those lucky enough to never know one. I ascertain that people, such as myself, born divergent, were born staticky, blinking between the cathode rays of many television channels all at once. And through this divergent magic is how I have learned to adjust my antenna to invoke a revolution or resolution to invoke a resolution no one else can see but me. All right. I love y'all. I don't think anyone's in here, and that's great. So that was Divergent Magick. Oh shit, Oswald's here. Hey. And Una. Thanks guys for dropping by. Um yeah, well, I was just gonna be really quick. This is a really short one. I just wanted to read my introduction to Divergent Magick. I'm still trying to be dexterous and you know, measured and tempered when it comes to these fucking live streams. So, yeah, I keep trying to do the late night ones. I'm not really promoting anything. Um, it's important to me to kind of experiment with the vulnerability. So, I hope you guys are well. I'm going to post this article on We the Hallowed sometime this week. I'm going to go through the cringe nightmare that is hearing what these words sound like when spoken back to me. So it's good to see you guys, Oswald, Una. I've got to go to bed. It's 2:23, which is my birthday. Perfect time to end. All right, guys. I love you, and yeah, haunt on.